Hi everyone, welcome to our Creating a Passion Project webinar. Today we will have our MC Angela, who's going to be asking our guest speaker Neha the questions. Our other guest speaker Elif, she has some family emergency come up a few days ago, so she's unable to make it today. But Neha will be here to answer all the questions you guys put in the sign-up form and other questions that may arise. I'm going to start by introducing a little bit about Make a Statement, and I'll hand it over to Angela to start the webinar. So Make a Statement is a nonprofit that's dedicated to increasing public speaking education for people, for youth, and especially for low-income students as well. So for today's webinar, we really just want to help people who have requested workshops on how to create their own passion projects, get some guidance from very experienced and successful people like Neha herself. I think we can get started. So I'll hand it over to Angela.
Cool. So starting with our first question, could you please introduce yourself and the general activities you did in high school? And specifically, were there any passion projects you worked on that you were particularly proud of?
Yeah, of course. First of all, hi everyone. My name is Neha, and I'm currently a freshman at Stanford, and I recently graduated from Doherty Valley High School. I'm studying CS here, and I actually have like tons of interests. So even though I'm studying CS, I'm still looking at different classes in like psychology and art and different languages. So that's pretty cool. And in high school, like the projects that I was like most proud of, I guess, are also end up being like my main extracurriculars in high school. So one of the big things I did was start a club called XR at DVHS. And that was essentially about using virtual and augmented reality to create different like solutions for education or for other social good issues. And that like club started off really small. It was just something I was interested in. But now like a lot of people became really interested. We were able to create a class at the school, a new like CS class. We are also able to start a lab at the school with a bunch of VR equipment, which is really, really cool. And I think it really started off from something very tiny, but grew into something fairly big. So that's something I'm definitely proud of. Some other things are just I'm really into game development. So I created a couple of games, first by myself and also with like in other competitions, and those are really fun. I can talk more about them later. And I also really want to dabble in a lot of different like passions of mine. So I like tried learning animation for a while. I'm still trying to learn. So I like create little animated shorts and whatnot. So there's a bunch of like tiny things here and there that I just like doing. So I just started doing a project with them. And yeah, I can definitely talk more in depth about them throughout the entire thing.
So our first question from the workshop attendees are, what were your greatest challenges you had to overcome in the journey of your passion projects?
Yeah, I think for me, like the biggest thing, first of all, like defining passion project. I don't think a passion project has to be necessarily like this huge thing, or it doesn't have to be like a tiny thing either. It's just whatever you decide it to be. And also like with passion projects, I think one of the biggest things is like accountability, because if you're like the one starting it, it's really hard to like motivate yourself to continue going, especially if things aren't going out the way you expect it. Like I know for me, whenever I'm trying to like start a project, like I start because I have like tons of ideas, like I'm really excited to start. There's like all these things I'm thinking about. But then when I start, if there's something like that doesn't go like the way I want it to, or I sort of like imagine things differently, then it's sort of like I kind of lose momentum while doing whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And there's no one to tell you like, oh, you have to keep going, right? So that's definitely like a difficult thing, but I think I've just learned that that's part of the process. And like things like that just mean like you're growing as a person while you're like working on your passion project. So I think definitely is like just making sure that you can keep yourself motivated and accountable while working on whatever project you take on.
Someone else said, I have an idea to start a nonprofit, but I don't know what I should do first.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously I didn't start a nonprofit. I think even Emily has more experience in that than me. But in general, for like starting any sort of organization, I think first of all, you want to make sure that the idea itself is something that you are like, first of all, genuinely passionate about. Because I know there's like a huge I don't know, like people want to create a club or a nonprofit just for the like for creating it. Maybe it's for college apps, maybe it's because everyone else is doing it. That's like definitely a reason why you shouldn't do it. I think the issue with that is just because if everyone is trying to do it because someone else is, there's no like actual nonprofit that's helping other people. It's just because they need to exist. So if you have an idea that you are super passionate about and also you think could actually make a difference, it's not something that's like already been done like a bunch of times over and over again. Not that it can't be, but it's something like unique. I definitely think you should continue with it. And like I think the first step is to find like other people who are sort of interested in the same area as you, and to work together with them. I know like I have a pretty big issue of just like trying to do everything myself in terms of like, oh, I like anytime I start a project, I really always want to like make everything the way I imagine. So a huge part of that is like sometimes I don't think about like getting help from other people, but I think that's actually a really great way to like get more work done, like split up the tasks, of course, like you're there to lead them as well. So I think first getting a team is like the way to go. And then afterwards, if you're creating a nonprofit, I'm not familiar with like the paperwork and whatever that goes with nonprofits, but at least for creating clubs, there's like a certain amount of planning that goes into like when you're supposed to apply to create one. And also just, again, working together with the team about it, getting an advisor. There's a bunch of steps at the beginning to go for.
Following up on that, what are different types of passion projects or like ideas that you could start relating to passion projects?
Could you repeat that last part again?
Just like ideas in general relating to passion projects that someone might have.
Oh yeah, I think like for me, where my ideas for passion projects kind of started is just like I really like art. So whenever I'm thinking of like ideas for anything like art related or creative, like it's just sort of like I'm like looking at random things and just like inspired by like random like movies that I watch, for example. And especially like I love watching animated movies as well. So like looking at that. But in terms of things with like some sort of social impact, I think I related the projects that I did in like art and game development areas to some sort of idea that or some sort of like issue that was really concerning me. So in 12th grade, I created this project with a group of students in XR where we actually created this VR escape room. So essentially, you have to go through like 5 different rooms, and each of them, although they're like escape rooms, the idea and theme behind them is actually it's telling you different ways you can help like solve the water crisis. So in one of the rooms, you can like try to see how you can like save water in your house, and then in another one in like agriculture, like how can you save water, what are different like methods of saving water in agriculture. And then another one could be in like your consumer choices, like if you're going shopping, what products require more water to make, and which one should you be buying. So like different tasks you have to do in each room to like escape it. And we sort of like combined that social issue with like a more like fantasy themed escape room, and it came together really well. And I think the biggest thing is like I was first of all like passionate about creating a project in VR that was like really cool to me. And also it was like regarding an issue that was like an actual social issue that could affect other people. So I think that definitely added to like the weight of the project.
What is the best way to research for projects?
Of course, it's like it depends on like what project you're trying to do. A lot of the projects that I worked on required like a general technical aspect to it. So like anytime I was like building anything like CS related, or I mean art as well has like a huge technical component to it. So in terms of research, I think when it comes to like more creative related things, I looked online for like a bunch of inspiration, like photos or for like different tutorials. And same with like the more technical side of things, I would always look for like, I think the biggest thing like what's doing technical passion project is like you like there's a lot of things you don't know going into it. Like there's a bunch of technical or like skills that you just like don't have, but you need to learn on the way. So the biggest thing is the internet is a huge resource. Just like go and like look at a bunch of tutorials, like kind of figure out what exactly you need to build out your project, and then go from there and like start looking up different tutorials online, or like just like that. I think it's your best friend. So literally just doing that is like a huge resource and a great way to get started. And I just want to add, like, I know for me, I sometimes I like have an idea for something and I really like want it to turn out the way I like imagine in my head. But sometimes like if you're like starting off like with a passion project and you haven't really dabbled in that field yet, like just don't expect it to be like the way you want the first time. It's like everything is a process. So just make sure like you don't rush yourself into trying to learn everything at once, because you're not going to be able to. Just like take it one step at a time and like start with small tasks first.
And kind of relating to what you said earlier about not starting a passion project just for the sake of it, just for colleges or whatever. How did you decide on a passion project that would actually benefit society compared to the dozens of passion projects that many people engage in just nowadays?
Yeah, I think the first, like the biggest thing is actually like kids sound selfish a little bit, but like I really think that if you want to start a project that is going to benefit a bunch of people, I think you need to start by making sure that it's something that you are truly interested in. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere and it's not going to benefit the people that you want to benefit, right? So I think one of the biggest things is like, if you're passionate about something, you're going to work on it, like you, because you like it. Like if you're forced to do something, that's how it like slowly like dies down, doesn't go anywhere. So that's why the reason why you should be interested in it first is because if you are, it's going to go somewhere and affect and help the people that you really want to help. So I just really think that regardless of the issue you're trying to focus on, the main thing is that like it needs to come with it.
Yeah. And how did you guys stay persistent and productive with your projects while managing everything else in your life, like school, other extracurriculars?
Yeah, I know. I actually had like a big issue with this, and I still do. Like the thing is with passion projects is that like again, no one is like forcing you to do anything. So it's like, are you gonna make time for this? And like when are you gonna make time for it? Like, is this more important than other things in your life? Those are like a bunch of questions that come up. I know like every day I create like a kind of to-do list. I'm like, okay, I need to do this, this, this. And I always like add stuff for like my next passion project like there. And then by the end of the day, I'm like really tired. I've done a bunch of stuff. I'm like, oof, I did not have time for that today. Let's put it off tomorrow. And that just keeps going. It's like a huge, huge thing. And like, obviously some part of that is valid. Like you got to worry about like other priorities first. But to a certain extent, there's also like, you need to put in time for anything to happen, right? So what I found myself doing was actually making sure, like, even if it wasn't like a huge chunk of time, like an hour, 2 hours, I would just make sure that I could work on whatever project at least for like 20 minutes like a day. Otherwise, like the progress will not come. So actually one of the things I did in high school, and I kind of I kind of messed up the challenge, but basically there's a 3D software called Blender, and it kind of helps you make 3D art and 3D models. And so I really wanted to learn how to use that. And so I like created this like 100-day challenge where every single day I would like at least do something in Blender to like learn it. And like it was actually very surprising. The first couple of days, like I was working on it, like I was already like improving like so much because every single day I was like going at it. And if there was an issue like that I faced, I kind of like give up that day. But then the next day I would get back on it and realize, oh, that wasn't that hard to solve, and keep going like that. And I think the benefit to doing that is, first of all, like practice, like you kind of, whatever you're doing, it's like a repetitive thing. So if you're always putting a little bit of effort into it every single day, it's going to get somewhere. And also that like you're now working on it in a big chunk, so you have time to like process between each time you're working. I know definitely for like technical or CS related things or any like problem solving related things, it gets really, really frustrating if you go at something for like a really long time and like you're not getting any progress out of it. You're just like stuck in some sort of a roadblock. But I think the best way is just to like take a break from it, because usually you like think about it in the times that you're not working on it, and it just like suddenly clicks and comes to you. So yeah, I think like working in shorter amounts of time, and like it doesn't have to be every day, it can be like a consistent amount of time like every week, but just like putting in that like small effort can really lead to something, and it doesn't actually take up like as much time, and you can balance everything else.
With the example you gave about Blender, how are you able to keep yourself consistent like every single day for the 100 days? Like, were there any days where you just felt like not doing it or taking a break?
Oh, of course. Yeah. The funny thing about the 100-day challenge is that it wasn't 100 days, because somewhere in there, I became busy, right? Like at some point there was like, I couldn't actually complete all 100 days. And not to say that I couldn't, I definitely could have if I really, really wanted to. But yeah, it's true that at some point, like you might be like burnt out of doing it, or like you just don't have enough time. That's definitely true. First of all, if you're like feeling overwhelmed and like it's like too much to handle the time, just don't do it. Like if it's like too much, like at that point you should just like slow down, like take breaks. Like you don't have to do everything. But in general, to keep yourself motivated, I feel like I'm definitely still struggling with the thing like all the time. But I think it helps to like take, if you're like really not feeling it that day, it's okay to take like a longer break, in terms of like sometimes I would do it like consistently every single day, and then sometimes I'd be like, oh my god, I'm kind of sick of this right now. So like I would take a week break and like not do it at all. So there's definitely like, it wasn't every single day, but I think that helped me like really understand like, or remember like why I started doing the challenge in the first place. Because like I would always see like these really cool 3D models online, and I really want to like build things similar to that. And so like when I was looking in like my break at some of those examples again, I would like re-spark my energy, and I would like get ideas again. I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to build this. So for doing that, I like really need to like start by doing these basic steps first. And I think like finding your inspiration is definitely something that helped me keep going.
Also, how are you able to meet people that have the same interests as you?
I think that's definitely like, there's tons of like online communities where you can, or especially like specifically communities of like women that are super helpful, and like in terms of like trying to work together in projects. And I think just like reaching out to like even people like going on like LinkedIn and like finding people of like similar interests just through their profiles, or even like mentors, I think is a huge thing. Like if you just reach out to people who are like really cool in that industry and you like want to learn from them, like chances are tons of people are just like, they want to help. Because like when you think about it, if you're in that position, like, and someone asks you a question, of course you like you want to help them, right? So like in the same way, don't be afraid to ask other people about that. And in terms of like other people who want to work on you, the passion project, I'm sure there's also tons of people in the same way looking for other people to work with. So your best like bet is to just like keep reaching out and just do it a bunch so that at least like someone somewhere in there will definitely be interested. And of course at school, like your friends or like I'm sure you like know other people who are somewhat interested in the area. So like just talk to them, like pitch your idea, see how it goes. And yeah.
With all that you did in high school, like your passion projects, grades, everything else, did you ever feel like really, or how busy were you? And did you ever feel overwhelmed by everything?
Oh yeah. I definitely had like moments where I was like really overwhelmed. But I think at a certain point in high school, like it could have been also just because like COVID and we're all at home and I had like more time to do things. But I felt like I was not like as overwhelmed as I think I would have been. Just seeing like after like putting everything into my college application, seeing like the things that I did in high school, I like looked back and I was like, did I really do all of those things? Because like it really did not feel like I was doing like that much work. Like I definitely was, but I didn't feel like it because I think at the end of the day, I was like really excited to do like the main extracurriculars that I had were like things that genuinely excited me. So it didn't really feel like that much work. I like really want to always like go to them and put extra hours for them. So that didn't feel like as much work as um I necessarily thought it was. But I definitely like had moments where I was just like burnt out because sometimes I just like want to do everything. I like there's I need to like be really good academically and also like all these extracurriculars I need to like balance them, and that was like a huge stress. But I think like something I just continue been like realizing and learning and teaching myself is that like you can do everything and you don't have to do it like this sounds like opposite of like do your best, but like I think I take that too much seriously sometimes. It's like sometimes you can like take a break on some of the things and like balance your life accordingly. You don't have to like put 150% into everything, because I know like if you're here right now, I just feel like we all are very like passionate people about whatever we're trying to do. And from that stems like a lot of like self-made stress. So I think you really want to make sure that you're balancing everything and just realizing that you don't have to like do everything and anything. You can ask other people for help in order to like make your workload easier. Like it's not a bad thing to like go out and ask for help. And also just making sure that again with like the different strategies I talked about earlier, like blocking out only a certain amount of time each day instead of like going at it for a really long time can really help in making sure the workload is much like bearable.
Yeah. And then a questions relating to college. Some people were just wondering, how did you decide on a major and how did you pick the university you wanted to attend?
Yeah, I was definitely in high school, like the beginning of high school, I did not consider CS at all because I like my brother was super like techie and seemed super complicated. I was like, I never want to go into that area. In 10th grade, I like took my first CS course and really loved it and started getting opportunities since then from like reaching out and working with like my club advisor and all of that. And I started like really finding projects in CS that I really enjoyed and combined like my passions. So I ended up thinking about CS, applying for CS in college. And in terms of like school, I definitely had like a certain like preference in terms of I want to make sure obviously that the school was like good in CS, but also like I really don't like cold weather. Like literally I'm wearing a puffer jacket right now and I'm in like California and it's sunny outside. But I like don't like cold weather. So I didn't really apply to that many East Coast schools. And also like I know like financially like financial like aid is like a huge factor in deciding like where you want to go and depending how much the school is giving you. So like in my case, I think I ended up like deciding finally between like three schools, Berkeley, Harvard, and Stanford. And in terms of Berkeley, like they provided like a lot of aid and like a lot of like merit scholarship. So that was like definitely a big contender. And it's also in like California, so it's great. And then Stanford also like provided like additional aid as well. And Harvard, I don't know. I just again, I don't like the cold, so I just kind of just like no. But at the end of the day, I think what I really valued in the school is like the culture around it for sure. Like I think coming to Stanford, I realized that everyone is like really cool. Everyone has their like own unique little like quirk that they do outside of like their main like major. Like there might be tons of like CS majors, bio majors, like psych majors or whatever, but everyone has like a bunch of cool little things they do outside of that, and it makes there's like a really cool culture here and a great place to learn from everyone. So I think I found that really cool. And also I'm not much of like a person, like a city person, and I think Berkeley was really centered in like a huge city. It's like very much like the campus is very much within different areas throughout the city, versus Stanford is like everything is kind of like campus. Like it's really hard to get out of campus because everything is campus, and it's like very like peaceful. Like I think I enjoyed that much better. So that's why I ended up choosing here. And I think there's like a lot of different factors that can go in, but at the end of the day, it's something about like where do I think I'll fit in, and not necessarily about like, oh, like I have to go here because it has that name. So really make the decision for yourself.
Okay, cool. Before I ask my final question for Neha, if anyone from the audience has any specific questions, feel free to add them in the chat right now. And then I will send a workshop feedback form, and it would be great if you guys could just fill it out. But the final question is, do you have any advice for your senior self dealing with all the applications, and even your junior, sophomore, or freshman self?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot of lessons throughout high school. And I think the biggest thing is, I think I've been saying it over and over, but I definitely tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. Not like, it's not even like peer pressure or like parental pressure. Like I feel like that's not as much as like how much I want to do myself. And I think that's like it's a good thing to a certain extent. Like obviously you're self-motivated and you have a lot of ideas. That's a great thing. But again, just making sure that you don't take that to the extreme, and like don't value like just taking breaks and like, you know, spending time with other people. Like make sure your life is like a good balance. And it's okay to like drop certain things or spend less time on things if it's like interfering with your like mental health. And another big thing during the college application process specifically is I feel like I compared myself at the beginning to a lot of people. Like I was always thinking like, I'm doing this, but like what is someone else doing? Like am I good enough for like this school, or like will they get in or something like that? And I think like it's definitely like everyone is thinking about it, like just no one like talks about it as much. But I think what I realized afterwards, like throughout the process, like, you know, like what is me caring about what other people are doing gonna like affect what I'm doing and like what I'm writing down in my application. And like I really thought like after like thinking about what other people are doing, I was like, oh my god, should I like start something like before college? Like should I start this new like project? Should I like add this to my like application? Like I had so many questions and I was like, oh my god, I need to do everything. Oh my god. I was like trying to get overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that I took a step back and I was like, you don't need to do anything. Like you're fine. You worked really hard in high school. Like just think about what you're passionate about, really let that shine through the application. And if you do what you're truly passionate about, it'll like the results will come and it'll look you don't have to worry about it looking good on your application. It will look good if you're the one passionate about it.
Okay, thank you so much for coming again, Neha, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences on college applications and your passion projects. It looks like no one has any further questions, and make sure to fill out the workshop feedback form. And with that being said, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to the workshop.
And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can put my email in the chat as well.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.